Good afternoon and welcome to the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services. Would the Secretary please take the roll?
Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assemblyman Gray. Assemblyman Hafen. Assemblyman Hibbets. Assemblyman Koenig. Assemblywoman Newby. Assemblyman Wynn. Assemblyman Orentlicher. Assemblywoman Taylor. Assemblywoman Thomas. Chair Peters.
I am here. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Since I have you all, we're going to start with work session today after some brief housekeeping items. Just a reminder to please mute all of your devices so we're not interrupting folks. I do that mostly for myself because I don't want to be that person. Members of the public may testify in a variety of ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. You may also submit public comment in writing, either in addition to or in lieu of testifying in person. Written public comment may be submitted before, during, or up to 24 hours after the adjournment of the meeting. If you wish to testify in person, please sign in at the table by the door and leave a business card. If you do not testify, you may also want to sign in over there so that we have a record of who is interested in these bills in the event that we'd like to get a hold of you later. To ensure an orderly flow of discussion, all comments, questions, and responses must go through me. Also, committee members must be recognized before you may speak. Additionally, I ask our presenters on Zoom video call to leave your cameras off and your microphones muted until it is your turn to present or if I direct any questions to you. When testifying in person, please turn the microphone on to speak and off to listen so we can avoid reverb in our recording, and it helps with the transcription of the meeting minutes. And with that, we'll move on with our agenda. We are going to start today with the work session. The work session is available on Nellis, and we will start with Assembly Bill 116. Mr. Ashton will go through each bill, and then we will have a vote on each bill. Mr. Ashton.
Thank you, Chair Peters. For the record, Patrick Ashton of the Research Division, Legislative Council Bureau. Just my usual reminder, as a nonpartisan member of the Legislative Council Bureau, I can neither support nor advocate on any measures before you today. We will start the work session with Assembly Bill 116, which was heard on March 22nd. This bill requires various healthcare providers to provide certain evidence-based information concerning Down syndrome and community-based support services for persons with Down syndrome 2, a person who is pregnant and has received test results indicating the fetus has Down syndrome, or the parent or guardian of a child with Down syndrome. This bill also requires such providers to refer them to appropriate community-based support services as necessary, and authorizes the State Board of Health to adopt any regulations necessary to carry out the provisions of this bill. Amendments. Assemblywoman Brown-May proposes the following amendments. Number 1. Revise in Section 1 that, upon delivery of a positive prenatal test result for Down syndrome to a person who is pregnant, a healthcare provider shall ask if the person wants to have certain evidence-based information concerning Down syndrome and community-based support services. Only if the person requests such information, the provider shall provide it to the person. Number 2, retain the provisions in Section 1 that upon receipt of a positive test result from a postnatal test for Down syndrome performed on a child, a healthcare provider shall provide the parent or guardian of the child with certain evidence-based information concerning Down syndrome and community-based support services. Number 3, require the Department of Health and Human Services to post on an internet website a list of community providers offering support services. And number 4, add certain co-sponsors to the bill. Chair Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass from Assemblywoman Taylor and a second from Assemblyman Wynn. Thank you so much. Are there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion passes unanimously. We will go on to Assembly Bill 119, Mr. Ashton. Oh, floor statement, Brown-May. We will give that to Assemblywoman Brown-May. Amend and do pass. Thank you. Mr. Ashton.
Thank you, Chair Peters. For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. Assembly Bill 119 was heard on March 3rd. It creates the Vulnerable Adult Fatality Review Committee within DHHS and prescribes the committee's membership, duties, and operational rules. Upon referral by certain entities, the committee shall review each death in Nevada that is known or suspected to have been caused by or be related to adult maltreatment. It may also review any other death it reasonably believes may have been caused by or is related to adult maltreatment. To perform its duties, AB 119 authorizes the committee to consult with experts and other interested persons and enter into contracts, access certain records it determines necessary, and petition a district court for a subpoena to compel the production of such records. The bill also provides that acquired information and records of the committee are confidential, not public records, and are not subject to subpoena, discovery, or introduction into evidence in any civil or criminal proceeding. Committee members, employees, agents, and consultants are immune from civil liability for acts performed in good faith and within the committee's scope of duties. Amendments. Assemblyman Orndlicker proposes the following amendments. Number 1, revise subsection 2A of Section 8 to add to the membership of the committee a licensed social worker actively practicing in a field with vulnerable adults as the client population. Number 2, revise subsection 1E2 of Section 10 so that the committee's report concerning incidents of adult maltreatment, plans for corrective action to reduce adult maltreatment, and recommendations for policy changes to address adult maltreatment is submitted to certain entities as outlined in items A through C on the bill page. Number 3, require a representative of the committee or from ADSD DHHS to present each committee's report submitted to the Legislative Committee on Seniors, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs at one of its meetings. Number 4, require the Attorney General to develop a plan to address the findings, corrective actions, and policy recommendations contained in the committee's report and hold a public hearing concerning the plan, and post the plan on the internet and hold the public hearing no later than 90 days after the Attorney General receives the report. And number 5, clarify in Section 12 that the provisions of records or information to the committee does not make those records confidential for the purposes of the governmental entity that provided the information of those records. Chair Peters?
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. So moved. From Vice Chair Orentlicker and a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Raise hands for those who oppose. We have Assemblyman Gray, Assemblyman Hibbets, Assemblyman Koenig, and Assemblyman Hafen. Motion passes. I will assign that to Assemblyman Vice Chair Orentlicker. Thank you. Mr. Ashton, AB 137, please.
Thank you, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. For the record, Assembly Bill 137 was heard on March 6. It replaces the term fetal alcohol syndrome with the definition of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder in various chapters of NRS. Amendments. Assemblywoman Gorlow proposes to amend this bill by requiring the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to seek all federal authority necessary to cover a set of benefits in Medicaid that are designed to allow individuals with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder to remain living in their homes or in community-based settings. Chair Peters?
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. A motion from Assemblyman Nguyen and a second from Assemblywoman Thomas. Are there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. And I would assign that to Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Thank you.
Or Mr. Ashton, Assembly Bill 154, please.
For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. Assembly Bill 154 was heard on March 15th, and for the sake of time, I will go straight to the amendments. Assemblywoman Peters proposed the attached to the work session document the conceptual amendments during the bill hearing. In summary, the amendments, number 1, remove sections 1 through 4. Number 2, require DPPH to maintain and publish on its internet website a list of accredited entities that accept living donations of birth tissue under certain conditions. And number 3, require hospitals and obstetricians to provide a patient who is pregnant with a link to the internet website containing this list or a printed version of this list. Assemblywoman Peters added the following conceptual amendment after the bill hearing. Number 4, clarify the living donation of birth tissue shall be derived from a live birth. Members, to clarify, item 3 of the conceptual amendment has been modified since the bill hearing to narrow down the providers to hospitals and obstetricians, which differs from the amendment language presented during the bill hearing, and I apologize, I did not make this clear on the bill page. Chair Peters?
No apologies necessary. We appreciate your work. Are there any questions from the committee? Yes, Assemblywoman Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a little clarity on the amendment. Number 1, remove sections 1 through 4. Does that remove the changes in that section? Or does it remove the entire section?
Brief pause while we pull up the bill. Mr. Robbins.
Eric Robbins, LCB Legal for the record. So sections 1 through 4 are all new language. So it's like all of those sections are changes. So this amendment would remove the entire section,
Right,
or all of those sections.
Okay, I appreciate it. I just wanted the clarity on that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. This is why we said silence your cell phones. Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Are there any other questions on the work session document? All right, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. A motion from Assemblyman Wynn and a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The motion passes unanimously, and I will take that floor statement. We'll move on to Assembly Bill 169. Mr. Ashton.
For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. Assembly Bill 169 was heard on March 6. It requires each package or box containing a feminine hygiene product that is manufactured on or after January 1st, 2025, for sale or distribution in Nevada to bear a label containing a plain and conspicuous list of all ingredients in the product. A violation of this provision is a gross misdemeanor. The Commissioner of Food and Drugs, as the relevant authoritative body, shall prescribe regulations for reasonable variations and exemptions to a small package. Amendments. Assemblywoman Golo proposes the following amendments, and see also the attached amendments to the work session document. Number 1, add certain definitions to the bill, and 1A states that within the definition for ingredient, a manufacturer is exempted from the requirement to disclose certain substances that are confidential business information, and B, within the definition for confidential business information, it provides that ingredients cannot be deemed confidential business information if they have been included on certain lists indicating that the ingredient is potentially hazardous. Number 2, add a requirement that ingredients shall be listed in a certain order on the label with certain exceptions. Further, require ingredients to be identified using a certain standardized nomenclature. Number 3, add a provision requiring a manufacturer, upon making a required revision to information disclosed online, to make these revisions no later than 6 months after the change or addition of the ingredient, or after the adoption of a revised designated list, unless a later effective date for changes to a designated list is imposed by the relevant authoritative body. Number 4, add a provision requiring a manufacturer, upon making a required change to the label on feminine hygiene product, to make the change within 18 months of the change or addition of the ingredient, or after the adoption of the revised designated list by its authoritative body, unless a later effective date is imposed by the relevant authoritative body. And number 5, add certain co-sponsors to the bill. Chair Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Are there any questions on the work session document? Assemblyman Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ashton, just in case I missed it, was there anything in the amendment that decriminalized this portion of the statute?
Thank you for the question. Mr. Robbins?
Eric Robbins, LCB Legal, for the record, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. I have a motion from Assemblywoman Thomas and a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Any discussion on the motion? Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that I have had several conversations with the Center for Baby and Adult Hygiene Products. They are okay with the amendment. In fact, this amendment is what they had requested. They had asked for us to mirror our language similar to California so that there'd be a uniform definition and requirements. So that's what this amendment does. And as far as the decriminalization, we didn't change that to start with. That was already in statute. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Would you raise your hand if you're a nay? We have Assemblyman Gray, Assemblyman Hibbets, and Assemblyman Hafen. The motion passes, and we can move on. And I will give that floor assignment to Assemblywoman Gorlow. Thank you. And we'll move on to Assembly Bill 208.
For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. Assembly Bill 208 was heard on March 13th. It requires DHHS to amend the home and community-based services waivers to include structured family caregiving for Medicaid recipients with dementia. The amendment shall authorize such a Medicaid recipient to choose his or her caregiver and the residence whether recipients will receive the caregiving. The caregiver must receive certain training, be employed with a personal care services agency or an intermediary service organization, and receive a daily stipend through that employer. Amendments. Chuck Duard, Nevada Public Policy Advocacy Director from the Alzheimer's Association of Northern California and Northern Nevada, proposes the following conceptual amendments. Number 1, remove all references to amend existing home and community-based services waivers throughout Section 1 and instead authorize the department to apply for a new waiver. Number 2, revise the term recipient of Medicaid with recipient of or applicant for Medicaid in subsection 2A of Section 1 and make conforming changes as necessary to other sections. Number 3, replace the effective date of January 1st, 2024 with an effective date of January 1st, 2025. And members, you also see statements of intent under each amendment. Chair Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Are there any questions on the work session documents? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. I have a motion from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. A second from Assemblywoman Newby. Is there any discussion on the motion? Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Knowing that this is going to go to Ways and Means, I'm going to vote this out of committee, hoping that we could fix the fiscal note. I do think that there was an error in that, and I'm hoping we could get that down to close to nothing. But I will be a yes today, but reserving my right on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hafen. Are there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I will assign that to Assemblywoman Considine. Thank you. We can move on to Assembly Bill 263. Mr. Ashton.
For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. Assembly Bill 263 was heard on March 24th. It requires an owner or operator of a covered healthcare facility to minimize the risk of Legionnaire's disease transmission by adopting and implementing a water management plan for the facility's water system, which must be reviewed every year. A covered healthcare facility or a person who violates these provisions is considered a public nuisance and may be abated by the health authority or is guilty of a misdemeanor, respectively. Further, the bill requires a healthcare provider, medical facility, or laboratory director to immediately notify the health authorities if such a disease is suspected or diagnosed in connection with a covered healthcare facility. Amendments. Assemblyman Watts proposed the following amendments during the bill hearing, and members, there's attached mock-up and a supplemental amendment attached to the work session document. In number 1, revising section 3, the definition of ASSE Series 12,000 to mean the most recent edition of it. Revising section 4, one important thing to Amendment 1 is to require also the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, DHHS, to review each new version of the standard, and unless DPPH issues a formal determination that the new version is not appropriate for the state within 90 days, the new version takes effect. Number 2, revise in Section 4 the definition of building water system. Number 3, clarify in Section 5 that only healthcare facilities that receive federal or state funding should be included in the definition of a covered healthcare facility. Number 4, revise subsection 3 of Section 5 to exclude any renal care facilities from the definition. Number 5, revise in Section 5 that a covered healthcare facility includes residential facilities for groups or RFGs, thereby including any RFG for persons with intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, and who are aged or infirm. And revise in Section 8 that Standard 188 means the most recent version of it, and the same provision applies here regarding DPBH. In Section 9, Amendment number 7, revise in subsection 2 that a water management program must be designed and administered in accordance with the most recent version of Standard 188. Number 8 and 9 make certain clarifications. Number 10 revises in subsection 3 of Section 9 that a water management program must set forth certain requirements to monitor instead of sample a building water system and remove all the locations in subsection 3 that would have been sampled. And there are all these other amendments from 11 to 15, and for the sake of time, you can find them on the work session document. Chair Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Are there any questions on the work session document? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. Assemblywoman Gonzalez is with the motion. Do I have a second? Second from Assemblywoman Gorlow. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Please raise your hands. Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblyman Koenig, Assemblyman Hibbets, and Assemblyman Gray are all nays. The motion passes, and I would give that floor statement to Assemblyman Watts. All right. Assembly Bill 265, Mr. Ashton.
Thank you, Chair Peters. For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. Assembly Bill 265 was heard on March 15th. It creates a statewide mental health consortium to represent existing regional mental health consortia. The bill prescribes the membership and duties of the statewide mental health consortium and allows the statewide mental health consortium and each regional mental health consortium to request the drafting of one legislative measure within the scope of the statewide or regional consortium as applicable. Amendments. Assemblywoman Gorlow proposes to revise this bill to mirror the language of the conceptual amendments to Assembly Bill 201 concerning the statewide mental health consortium, as voted on and approved by the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services during its work session on March 31st, 2023. Chair Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Are there questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. Assemblywoman Gorlow, and a second from Assemblyman Nguyen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. And I would assign that to Assemblywoman Gorlow. And then our last work session item, Assembly Bill 311. Mr. Ashton.
For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. Assembly Bill 311 was heard 2 days ago, and it authorizes a hospital to enter into an agreement with the Armed Forces of the United States to authorize an unlicensed person who provides care under authority granted by the federal government to provide such care in the hospital, among other provisions. And amendments, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod proposes to add as co-sponsors Assembly Members Gray, Taylor, and Thomas. Chair Peters.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to amend and do pass. Assemblywoman Thomas, and a second from Assemblyman Gray. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. All right. We'll go ahead and I'm going to assign that to Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Okay. So we're going to close the work session agenda item. Thank you all so much for helping get us through that. The next thing on the agenda are bill hearings. We have 3 bill hearings today, 2 of which I will present, and 1 of which will be presented by Assemblywoman Gorlow. I will have Vice Chair Ornlicker take over while I come up to present. We're going to take these out of order, and we'll start with Assembly Bill 338. Brief recess.
Are you ready? Okay, I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 338, which is about revises provisions governing healthcare, specifically art therapy services for Medicaid coverage. So please proceed, Chair.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Ornlicker and fellow members of the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services. For the record, I am Sarah Peters, and I represent Assembly District 24 in Washoe County. I'm happy today to present to you Assembly Bill 338, which requires the state plan for Medicaid to cover creative art therapy services. I will also be covering 2 conceptual amendments for this bill, which are uploaded on Nellis. Additionally, I have Mario De La Rosa, who brought this concept to me in the interim to help provide some context as well as one of the conceptual amendments. Some background information. Creative art therapy is a form of therapy that uses art forms such as dance, drawing, music, theater, etc. to help treat emotional, mental, and physical health issues. This form of therapy does not require an individual to have any artistic ability. One of the many benefits of this therapy allows a person to express their thoughts, emotions, and feelings through art instead of words. Creative art therapy may help treat Alzheimer's disease, trauma, and stress, among other things. I would like to give a few examples of what creative art therapy looks like, and we'll start with music therapy. Music therapy sessions may include songwriting, discussing lyrics, and musical improvisation to help improve mental health conditions, disabilities, brain injuries, and chronic pain. Dance therapy is well documented in helping an individual improve their self-esteem and body image, build relationships, and expand their movement levels with dance. Lastly, art therapy, through the form of painting, drawing, and sculpting, help people explore their feelings, reduce anxiety, resolve emotional conflicts, and express their emotions. We all recognize the dire situation when a person is suffering from a mental health disorder. This bill is another tool in our toolbox addressing mental health disorders by opening the door to a form of treatment that may have been or that has been proven to help with a variety of conditions. By allowing for Medicaid coverage of creative art therapy, we introduce a new opportunity for Nevadans to receive the help they badly need. A brief bill summary, including conceptual amendments. The bill requires the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to include the service of art therapy in the state plan for Medicaid. Further, Nevada Medicaid must prescribe the required training and qualifications to providers to be able to enroll so that they can be reimbursed through Medicaid for the art therapy. A provider of art therapy must apply to Nevada Medicaid to be eligible for reimbursement. There are two conceptual amendments. I believe you have one in front of you from Notables and the Fior Partners group. We're still working through these, and we have an additional conceptual amendment that Mario De La Rosa will go over briefly. The first submitted is intended to expand access to mental health services by allowing additional types of therapists to be reimbursed through Medicaid. A creative arts therapist is already recognized employment category at the federal level. And instead of using art therapy, this amendment uses creative art therapy, as it is more inclusive of multiple types of art therapy, including art, drama, dance, or music. One of the areas that we're continuing to work on is whether this should require an accredited degree or if other certifications are reasonable to provide that therapy. So for the record, that piece is something we're continuing to work on. And finally, the amendment changes the definition of enrolled art therapist to enrolled creative art therapist. And the second amendment originated from Mario De La Rosa, and I would ask that Mr. De La Rosa be able to go over, first of all, some of what he does in the background of this bill, as well as the conceptual amendment.
Yes, please go ahead and just please state your name and spell it for the record, and then share your thoughts.
Thank you. My name is Mario De La Rosa. I am Executive Director with Latino Arte and Culture. And what I am presenting today is just an idea to expand the benefits of the arts in the state of Nevada through the Nevada Arts Council. In Nevada, the Nevada Arts Council has access to federal grants from National Endowment of the Arts and other sources, and can be disbursed these funds among qualified nonprofits arts organizations that serve unrepresented and underserved communities. The Nevada Arts Council, established by Chapter 233C, Organizations for the Promotion of Culture, has the language that recognizes that art has a vital aspect in our culture, and it recognizes the educational and economic impact in our society, and how it promotes the general welfare in our society. But it does not speak about its positive impact and how the arts can be used on mental health issues. Chapter 233C can be amended to comply with this new definition, so it won't be necessary to reinvent the wheel. In my document, I present the Chapter 233C is online, and it describes what the Nevada Arts Council does. And I think that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De La Rosa. Would you like to add anything else before we move to questions, Chair?
No, with that, we stand open for questions.
Very good. Assemblywoman Taylor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, Chair Peters. Ms. Mario, good to see you again. Just a question on the amendment, on the amendment number 1, but on the First Amendment number 3, how about that? On the First Amendment number 3, you list the requirements for someone that who wants to be reimbursed for delivering creative arts therapy services. Is that consistent with what we already have in place for arts therapy services for them to get reimbursed there? Does that make sense?
No. I'm sorry.
No, let me try again.
Okay.
Let me try again. Okay. Appreciate your honesty, Madam Chair. Okay. All right. So a person who wishes to receive reimbursement through the Medicaid program for creative arts therapy that they've provided to a recipient of Medicaid, right, must submit these things to the division, right? Is that consistent with, if it isn't, with what's already in place for someone who wants to be reimbursed for, because I know they can deliver arts therapy right now, that's already been approved. So is it the same requirement for creative arts therapy? It sounds like you might need to phone a friend.
Yeah, I feel like I need to phone a friend because my understanding is that we do not currently cover art therapy through Medicaid, right? So this would expand Medicaid reimbursement to art therapy. Creative art therapy is just another definition that's more consistent with the federal definitions. But my understanding and the reason why we brought the bill and are adding this section in there is to enable Medicaid to be able to reimburse for those services.
Okay, so what, okay, I'm sorry, if I may, Mr. Vice Chair? Thank you. So, okay, so I misunderstood then. So it's already a part of what the feds allow, if you will, but we haven't been able to do it here in our state for Medicaid.
I'm gonna call a friend
Because she's
I
looking
know-
and
I know
smiling.
she's like ready to do
Right.
this.
I'm looking at you and she's looking over your shoulder the whole time, almost like, pick me.
Thank you, Chair Peters, and thank you, Assemblymember Taylor. For the record, my name is Manal Topazada. I'm the founder and executive director of Notable Music Therapy Services. I am a licensed and board-certified music therapist. And to answer your question, this umbrella term of creative arts therapies is a federally recognized employment term, so, and it includes drama, dance, art, and music therapy. And each one of those disciplines in turn have very strict educational and certification guidelines. So there are Medicaid or Medicare, those services are covered under Medicare in certain, and there are 18 states that cover music therapy specifically under Medicaid or Medicaid waivers. So there are pretty strict definitions about who a music therapist is, who an art therapist is. It's not just somebody who's providing art services, if that makes sense. So there are 18 other states. There are models for how this is being done in other states, and we're hoping that Nevada can join that.
And thank you so much. Yeah, so Sarah Peters for the record. So the federal designation is under Medicare, which the state doesn't touch. And so we're moving that into the Medicaid definition so that we can follow that CMS guidance on how to reimburse for those. And if you don't mind, actually, we previously had undertaken music art therapy certification in the state of Nevada. Is that?
So we were fortunate. Nevada was actually the second state in the country to provide state licensure for music therapy. 2011, we worked with Senator Mo Dennis to get state licensure through SB 190. So we do have licensure for music therapy in addition to national board certification. The other creative arts therapies, including art therapy, does not, to my knowledge, have state licensure yet.
Yes, not in the state. And this bill doesn't prescribe that we would, sorry, Sarah Peters for the record, that we would develop those licensing structures, but it would allow for Medicaid to develop out the prescribed form and the let's see, where is it? The required training and qualifications to enable a provider to apply for that to be covered as a provider of those services under Medicaid.
Okay, thank you. I actually followed that, believe it or not. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Vice
you. Let's go to Assemblyman Koenig, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Now, is this covered by any private pay insurances? I mean, is there I mean, we want Medicaid to cover it, or any other, the private care insurances, or is there any coverage under any of them that you're aware of?
So in other states, yes, some of the larger insurance companies like Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield are covering music therapy services. In Nevada, not yet, and we're hoping once Medicaid is able to cover these services that insurance companies will follow.
Thank you.
Sarah
Thank
Peters,
you.
for the record, if I may, just a little bit of background. There's a desire to increase cultural accessibility in therapy and behavioral health care in general, and the arts are a great place to integrate culture into what can help people in some of the darkest times of their lives, and so allowing for the state to cover those costs and help offset those costs to those providers can open up the spectrum of accessing something that to some feels very inaccessible, not just through the financial piece, but also through cultural barriers that exist.
Thank you. Assemblyman Nguyen, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, Chair. You actually stole part of my question, so thank you for getting ahead of that. In terms of the culture piece, and then my line of question is around most of this all the time, and maybe phone a friend would jump in. Don't forget to state your name first. Is that in terms of, I know that this bill is not going towards the licensing or certification of providers, but in terms of the communities that need to access this from a language access capacity, I know that Spanish may be covered already, but for other languages that may need the services, and let's say they don't have the ability to get that provider who does speak or understand or be able to provide those services in other languages, especially for the folks in my district that has so many API communities that could benefit from this. So if the provider are not certified yet and they need to, provide those in those languages, are they able to work with community members to provide this service? And that's hopefully you're getting what I'm asking. So thank you.
Sarah Peters, for the record, the amendment that Mr. De La Rosa has presented kind of gets to the more community-based situation, right? When you have an entity that wants to provide those cultural services, including art therapy services, oftentimes that's quite the fiscal lift, right? And so enhancing the state's financial grant opportunities to those entities, right, by asking that they pursue specifically grants that support those entities, but also opening their other existing grants to these specific entities. We can provide funding that enables those those culturally important partners who may not meet those accredited options, right, to participate, right, and bring these kinds of services into communities that currently are underserved. So that explains the second part of the amendment, right, to try and get to those who may not be accredited. And then I would ask, is there any requirement in the accreditation at the federal level for language access, or is there any enhancement that comes with that? Do you happen to know?
There is no federal requirement, or there's no Manal Tofazada, Notable Music Therapy Services, for the record. There is no federal requirement for language, but I do want to add the idea of partnering with community agencies is incredibly important, and I'm a first-generation American also, and I know that there are many cultural barriers around accessing mental health services, and one of the things we find is that there's a lot less stigma around accessing art or music than there is around accessing traditional therapies. So it is a way to reach those communities that traditionally are more hesitant to access traditional mental health services.
Quick follow-up, Chair.
Please go ahead.
Vice Chair, sorry. I've been doing that all week. In terms of the best practices from other states, you mentioned 18 states. Are there any of those states who dealt with some of these things that had best practices that perhaps maybe not sharing today, but you could share with the committees on some of the best practices for those language access community? I think that would be awesome for us to learn.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to provide.
Great.
What I can.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Let's go to Assemblywoman Thomas, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, Chair Peters, for bringing this forward. You know, I must say that I live in a household that appreciates music, a daughter that is a classically trained singer, and, you know, my grandkids, they are all musical. My question actually, you know, for the therapeutic part of it, what would it include? Would it include, you know, the arts as far as painting? Is it singing? Is it, you know, creative art can mean a lot of things. So if you could just give me a hint of what this program would be, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and that is an impressive family relationship to the arts. I love it. Sarah Peters for the record. So currently, as Manal had said, there are accepted art therapies, or I guess federally recognized art therapies in art, which is the traditional painting, drawing, etc., drama, which would be theater, improvisation, etc., dance. So I think it probably started with ballet, but I think I've seen it in modern dance, hip hop, etc. And then music therapy, which as the state of Nevada has chose to recognize in previous sessions. So those are the four recognized, but they are pretty broad in the application, because music therapy includes, and Manal can speak to this a little bit more, singing and music drafting, right, the writing process, as well as the playing of musical instruments.
Thank you for the presentation and questions. I think we can now move to testimony. So, if you would like to testify, we'll do support, then opposition, then neutral. Please come to the table when it's your turn. Identify yourself by name. Spell your name, please. So we'll start with support testimony here in Carson City. Please proceed, and again, your name and spell that for the record.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mary Bryant, B-R-Y-A-N-T, and I'm here to speak in favor of AB 338 with the amendment to include all creative arts. I want to note that I have permission from my daughter Kaylin to speak about what I'm going to speak about next. Kaylin is 28 years old and has Down syndrome. She's very independent, lives in her own apartment, works at Five Below in the Summit Mall. In May of 2020, she was violently raped in her home. Fortunately, she knew to call me for help. We called the police, and I'm happy to report that her assailant is serving a life in prison. She even submitted to a forensic exam because she didn't want him to be able to hurt anyone else. I bring this up because rape, of course, was a life-changing experience for Kaylin and for the whole family. She's very brave and resilient, but she needed some help coping with the trauma. With the help of the Victim Assistance Fund, she was able to see a therapist. But talk therapy was not really that helpful to her. She even said to me at one point, "Why do I have to keep going? I already told her what happened." So we turned to art and music therapy. Since this was the height of COVID, she began art therapy via Zoom. She also started the online Notables music therapy class, where she did songwriting and could express herself that way. She also took online guitar lessons, which helped her to express herself. I credit these therapies with much of her recovery. Now, with COVID restrictions lifted, she takes in-person dance and guitar lessons with the Notables. She'll even be in a citywide concert with other notable dancers in May. I really credit her art and especially her music therapy with much of her recovery. She continues to express herself through dance and music. We were very fortunate to have access to the Victim Assistance Fund, and we also can afford the therapies now that that has run out. But I'm concerned because so many families would not be able to afford it. And that's why I would encourage you to pass this with the federally defined creative arts definition. Thank you. Push the button.
Hi, my name is Kaylin, and I am 28 years old, and I love taking dance class, and I'm taking guitar lessons doing good, and I'm in the point of the month at Five Below, which I'm working at, and I'm going to be the dance concert, and it asks me one of 4 dancers at Noble's Music Therapy Services, and the performance is in May 11th. And thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I'm so sorry what happened, but I'm glad this therapy has worked. So thanks for sharing that with us. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Leela Olmeyer. It's kind of a hard spelling, so I'll spell my first and last name. My first name is spelled Leila. My last name is Uhlmeyer. Kind of hard spelling. But, so I just wanted to go over a couple things, at least from my experience, and I've really learned like a lot of things that have helped me through my depression especially, and my PTSD, and I'll go into specifics with that. My mental health was kind of at a down low for a while, and then I came to Notables, and I was like, well, how is this going to work? And when I really got into it, it was very helpful because here's my music therapist now, but so she helped me with not only like getting my songs out, getting my emotions out, with song, like playing a song or like playing my ukulele, and that really helped me a lot. Realize also what emotions I'm feeling personally and how to deal with them, and I think that's really helped me a lot with that thing. And then also, I didn't really have many friends for a while. I've made so many friends. And it helped me with my mental health with that part too, to also relate to somebody who had the same interests as me. And also, it's really been so helpful to see like other people grow in that area too. It's not only just about me in this case, it's about so many others that have grown because of Notables, and it has really helped a lot of people's mental health, even my brother's. My brother, he's at home, but he couldn't testify. He was very tired. But it's really helped him a lot. I've noticed that we've grown a lot with that, and also with my anger management, because I have bipolar and that, oh God. But I've learned kind of how to help and manage with that, and I'm very, very happy to be with Notables. That's all. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. This personal testimony is really very helpful. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else who would like to testify in support?
It's on now. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark East, and I've been a member of the Notables for 17 years. As a victim of a motorcycle accident, I was withdrawing from society. Sitting in my room watching TV. I had no life, really. And joining the Notables helped me learn music and meet people who became friends. I now have an active life. I look forward to the future. Right now, not having enough money is a barrier to some people who could benefit from music therapy like I have. Speaking from my personal experience, I believe everyone should have access to music therapy. By having Medicaid cover creative arts therapies, more people would be able to enjoy their lives through Notable music therapy services. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
this is Manal Topazada again, Notable Music Therapy Services. I have with me Bev Carpenter, and Bev is requesting that I read her testimony. Is that okay?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, so this is testimony from Beverly Carter, and Bev is speaking in favor of AB 338 with a request to modify the language to include all creative arts therapies. Bev, this feels weird speaking for you, has been a participant at Notable Music Therapy Services for 13 years. Being part of an organization that fosters creative growth, such as NMTS, has helped me grow as a person. I have better communication skills and can work through problems and disagreements with my friends and even help them when they have arguments. My adopted sister and I can talk like adults now, and we can get along with each other. Being part of Notable Music Therapy Services has made my life so much better. Now I have a lot of friends and people who support me. For example, a couple of weeks ago, my friend Sierra came to my house for the weekend, and we watched movies and had a great time. And this weekend, I'm going to my friend Sheena's birthday party. Without the friendships I have made, I would just be at home in my house with my mom. Oh. As part of Notable Music Therapy Services, I have performed many, many times over the years. I used to get so nervous being in front of people.
Yep.
When I dance, I feel free to move, and I am super excited about dancing at the upcoming Reno Dance Festival. Notable Music Therapy Services has given me the confidence to come and be before you today.
That's terrific. I'm glad it's been so successful, and thank you for coming today.
So I feel like I'm speaking a lot, but I'm speaking to testify now. So again, my name is Manal Topazada, Executive Director of Notable Music Therapy Services. And first and foremost, I want to thank Chair Peters so much for proposing this incredible legislation. And thank you, Assemblyman and Co-Chair Orentlicker and the committee for your time today for hearing all of us. So again, I strongly support AB 338 with the proposed amendments so that creative arts therapy will be covered under Medicaid in Nevada. These therapies have proven outcomes for individuals dealing with a variety of health issues. And as I mentioned, as co-chair of the State Music Therapy Task Force, I helped get SB 190 passed in 2011 with the help of Senator Mo Dennis. And this has had a huge impact on our ability to provide clinical music therapy services in partnership with more than 24 agencies in Northern Nevada, including healthcare, mental health, and community health providers. So why is Medicaid so important? So as a community-based nonprofit, more than 75% of the individuals we see fall at or below federal poverty guidelines. And since our services are not reimbursed by Medicaid, every person who accesses our services has to pay out of pocket. And even though our fees are extremely low and we have sliding scales available, there is a financial impact of making a choice between paying for therapy and paying for groceries for that month. We receive an average of 12 calls a week for services, and one of the first questions asked by many individuals is, do you take Medicaid? And we say no, but we have, we go down, we have our fees, sliding scale, et cetera, but many of these individuals only hear the word no. And the people who are calling us are parents of teens with anxiety and depression who cannot or will refuse to access traditional therapy services. They're adults with mental health and addiction issues who need those extra tools in their toolbox to stay healthy and sober. They're low-income individuals with developmental disabilities who need healthy and safe outlets. So this lack of Medicaid coverage is just one more barrier in the way to accessing mental health services, and it's a barrier that can be easily removed. Music therapy and all creative arts therapy. I know we're talking about music today, but all of the creative arts therapies really work, and as of 2022, so as of the end of last year, 18 states provide reimbursement for music therapy under Medicaid, and another 10 are considering legislation that would provide reimbursement under their Medicaid programs. We hope that Nevada will join these states and to continue to be on the forefront of working to do all we can do to eliminate barriers and creating paths forward so that all Nevadans can benefit from affordable, accessible, creative, and effective mental health services. I encourage your support of AB 338 as amended to include Medicaid coverage for all creative arts therapies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the great work you're doing and illustrating that so well today. Other people who would like to testify in support here in Carson City? Okay, in Las Vegas, are you here to testify in support? Oh, are you standing to support?
My name is my name is Mary Ann Humphrey, MariannHumprey, and I didn't know what this bill was, but it's a very pleasant surprise, a nice positive bill for a change. And I am very much in support. As being an artist myself, I am just always been so pro using art therapy to help people, children, adults, with different problems they have. And I just think it's wonderful, and it's been wonderful to hear the responses from the people today and the successes that these young women have had. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Karen Stevens, and myself included, I was not aware of this bill, and just really heartwarming to hear the testimony for the people that are involved in this program. And so I just add my support to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for testifying. Would anybody else like to testify here?
Thank you. I've never done this before. My name is Kasia Caldwell, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in Nevada and from Las Vegas. And I'd like to support this bill as well and express my support of it. As a clinician in our community, we have a shortage of mental health clinicians and access to services, specifically for our neurodiverse population and those people who struggle with communicating verbally, and art and music are wonderful ways for them to be able to express their emotions and to communicate and to be able to form a sense of community. And this is an area that we are really struggling with meeting locally and across our state. And so I just would like to express my support in this as well as a clinician.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. Anybody else here in Carson City who would like to testify? Okay, it looks like somebody's in Las Vegas. Are you here to support AB 338?
Yesenia Gonzalez for the record, Yesenia Gonzalez. I am in support of this bill. I come here representing my son, also Azul Blue United by Autism. Both of us support this bill. Many of our children are autistic. Many of them are musically inclined and love the music arts. They find healing in it. I will tell you from what I have observed within the organization that I serve, and also as, like I mentioned, a child that I have that is autistic. He loves music. He has benefited in the past from it. His therapist in the past used similar techniques when it was used in occupational therapy, speech, ABA. Currently at my son's middle school, they have something called cram time. And so any other child would probably like to hop on a computer and probably play some games. My son chooses to play the piano. That's what he loves to do. He has two siblings that play the violin, and he loves to watch them play. He loves to try to learn how it works out, and it makes him very happy. At the same time, with individuals like the clinician mentioned, I mean, we can use this as positive reinforcement as well. So I will tell you, when my son has a breakdown, you pop on Queen, he loves it. He loves Under Pressure. He loves We Are the Champions. He loves to sing. He likes to try to sit there and tap with his pencils, trying to drum. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but unfortunately, a lot of those Medicaid services do not help our individuals in the community. And I just hope that you guys really support our special needs community, see the benefits of it. You're hearing from Carson City, all the outpour. I wish there was more people here in Las Vegas that can express just the benefits of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas who would like to testify in support? Okay, broadcasting, do we have anybody on the line in support of AB 338?
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 338, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, for the record, my name is Katrin Ivanov, Ivanoss. I am calling for support of this bill. It's about time for us to support the people that really need it. We heard testimony of the people that are help. Not just that, but it's well documented that after they took arts from schools or significantly diminished it, the kids are having behavioral problems. It is very well documented that arts help in many, many aspects, including just relaxing your brain, making more possible for the kids to study better. And this just makes sense. I am very, very pleasantly surprised that our bill makers are finally bringing a bill that makes sense. Because I've been reading in a lot of the bills, trust me, I can't believe adults are writing them. Please vote yes for this. Please respect those brave individuals that came in and shared their horrific stories, but at the end with a happy ending because of the help of the arts. Please support that bill. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Thank you for your testimony. Next broadcasting.
If you have recently joined and want to testify in support of Assembly Bill 338, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you and have a lovely day.
Thank you for your testimony. Next broadcasting.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify at this time.
Thank you. We'll now move to opposition testimony. Anybody here in Carson City who would like to testify in opposition? Okay. In Las Vegas, is there anybody who would like to testify in opposition? Broadcasting, do we have anybody on the line in opposition?
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 338, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last digits 119, you may begin.
Hi, my name is Joan Cameron, JoanCameron. And while I support anybody who wants to help anybody else, I think that much more gifting of our given rewards is appropriate in a community. As far as Medicaid goes, Medicaid was set up to help people to live by receiving food and benefits for living in a house or a structure. If you keep adding programs to support all this other stuff, soon there will be no money for basic survival, and then nobody will have anything. I want to express that as a taxpayer and a citizen, that I give my services with the abilities that I have to those that need it. And I don't believe that everybody should pay their hard-earned money to support things that they don't believe in. I would like to see more of those people who receive Medicaid benefits to volunteer their gifts to others that need it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Broadcasting next online in opposition.
If you have recently joined and like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 338, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Before I begin, is this the bill regarding the health centers?
That's coming up. No, it's a different bill.
Is this like 238 or something?
237,
Okay.
yes.
I appreciate it.
Well, you'll have another chance.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in opposition on AB 338?
Vice Chair, there are no other callers to testify in opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to neutral testimony. Is there anybody here in Carson City who would like to testify in neutral? Okay, in Las Vegas. Now broadcasting on the phones. Anybody in neutral?
To testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 338, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, Katrina Ivanov for the record. I just wanted to comment on the last caller. I didn't hear the last caller calling when they were taking our taxpayers' monies for transgender surgeries for kids. I didn't hear the last caller calling for.
Did we hear you testify?
uploading our money.
I'm sorry. We heard you testify previously. Is that right? So,
Correct.
please testify to the bill rather than to the other people's testifying, please.
These people deserve our taxpayer money. Finally, somebody that deserves help with our taxpayer money. In comparison to what everything else you want to give our taxpayer money to people that breaking the law, to criminals, please vote yes to the bill. I'm so sorry. It's very upsetting to hear that people are opposing this bill. This is the only bill that makes sense of all the things that I've heard so far, and I've been listening for a long time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else testifying in neutral?
Vice Chair, there are no other callers to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Would you like to close, Chair?
Just briefly, I would like to thank the committee first for your time today and thank those who attended and shared your stories and how wonderful art therapy can be in our community and how it uplifts those who may feel like it is that kind of help is inaccessible. So I'm really grateful for the folks who are in support of this bill and look forward to working further on finalizing this and making it something that functions for the state of Nevada. And I would be remiss to not put on the record in response to the opposition testimony that Medicaid really is about foundational services for people to give folks that boost up the lift they need to survive. It's not about ensuring that they live in a mansion or even covering the cost of food. That's covered under separate social services. Medicaid is really about taking care of the foundational health of our population, particularly those who don't have access to it in other ways and forms. I would like to end with just requesting your support on this important bill and thanking you for your time again today.
Thank you very much, Chair, for bringing this very important bill. And we'll close the hearing on AB 338. And are you interested in moving to your next bill? Is it 237?
37, please.
On school-based health centers. So I will now open the hearing on AB 237, and please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ornlicker and committee members. For the record, I am Sarah Peters, and I represent Assembly District 24. As Chair of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services, I'm here today to present Assembly Bill 237 as the last Assembly Bill of a series of children's health care measures requested by the Interim Committee, as mentioned during my remarks on Assembly Bill 201 last month. Before I begin, please see a conceptual amendment which is available on Nellis. I would like to discuss with you the importance of school health services and school-based health centers. In short, school-based SBHCs. These resources play a critical role in ensuring the well-being of our children and adolescents, and their impact goes beyond just physical health. By improving and enhancing these services, we can also address behavioral health issues before they become pervasive, ensuring that every child can succeed academically, socially, and emotionally. School health services refer to a comprehensive range of services provided to students, including health education, preventative screening, immunization, and basic health care. These services promote the health and well-being of students in the school setting. I want to mention here that our children spend almost more time at school than they do anywhere else, including our own homes if you don't count their sleeping periods. On the other hand, SBHCs are clinics located within or near schools that offer more in-depth health services such as primary care, mental health services, and dental care, among others. Both school health services and SBHCs can also play an essential role in addressing behavioral health issues among youth. Early identification, intervention, and support can make all the difference in preventing these issues from escalating and affecting our children's overall development. Assembly Bill 237 aims to address barriers that prevent school health services and SBHCs to reach their entire service array within our schools. Last year, the Interim Committee thought the best way is by improving and investing in school-based health centers to improve access to health care and behavioral health services. However, since then, a lot of things have changed, and the discussion has evolved, which is great. That's the purpose of this body, right, is to evolve the policy conversations. After meeting with state and local stakeholders from our Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, and representatives of Nevada school districts, the barriers facing school health services and school-based health centers have become a lot clearer. Therefore, the conceptual amendment to Assembly Bill 237 replaces most of the bill with new provisions based on these discussions, which I will briefly summarize for you. I just want to confirm that everyone has the proposed conceptual amendment in front of them. Okay. The conceptual amendment replaces all sections except Section 5, which requires Medicaid managed care organizations to negotiate in good faith with Nevada-based school-based health centers to provide services to recipients of Medicaid. We want to make sure that our MCOs cover students as well when they receive services at SBHCs. Item 1 through 3 of the conceptual amendment requires private health insurers to cover school health services. This could have a significant impact on accessibility and affordability of health care services for our students covered by private health insurance. Some examples are improved access to care, requiring private health insurers to reimburse school health services as if they were rendered by in-network providers, expands access to care to all students, not just those covered by public health insurances such as CHIP or Medicaid. Ensuring coverage for essential services. If a qualified health-related service is not available through an in-network provider, insurers must cover the service at the same amount or higher as the Medicare, or if not available for Medicare, the Medicaid reimbursement rate. This requirement ensures the providers of school health services get paid for the services they provide to students. Eliminating financial barriers. By waiving cost-sharing requirements such as co-pays, co-insurance, and deductibles, families will be encouraged to utilize these services for their children without concern to cover out-of-pocket costs. In summary, the proposed amendments in item 1 through 3 have the potential to expand the accessibility and affordability of school health services and promote better health outcomes for our children. Next, the proposed amendment in item 4 addresses access to school-based health services for Medicaid-eligible students by enhancing communication and coordination between state agencies, school districts, and healthcare providers, and to increase financial incentives for providers to offer services at or nearby schools. In conversations with stakeholders, one of the largest barriers to providing school-based health care is that service providers can't afford to take our kiddos. That our providers are choosing between what reimbursement rate makes it reasonable for them to provide care, and our students end up being the ones who suffer that. So first, we are looking at enhanced data sharing. By implementing parental consent for data sharing between local and state education agencies and school-based health centers or other qualified Medicaid providers, relevant insurance information is easily accessible to those providing covered services to students. This data sharing can lead to improved coordinated care and health outcomes for students. Again, this is specific to the insurance information. Second was streamline enrollment process. By pursuing federal waivers and authority to implement parental consent through opt-out procedures, the amendment streamlines the Medicaid enrollment process for students. So we have a consent agreement in place that is separate from the Medicaid process. So a child can be recipient of Medicaid, and to be able to receive school-based health services that is covered under Medicaid, they also have to fill out this consent form. And that second process, that second form, which could be a part of the Medicaid enrollment process, is a barrier to accessing those services. Third, incentivizing collaboration. The establishment of an incentive payment program for certified community-based behavioral health centers and federally qualified health centers encourages these providers to collaborate with local or state education agencies in delivering Medicaid coverage services to students. I'm on 1, 2 through 4. Increased reimbursement rates. The amendment seeks to increase Medicaid reimbursement rates for all eligible state plan services provided by qualified providers in school settings. This increase in reimbursement rate could encourage more providers to offer their services in schools. And finally, expanding billing capacity. By helping school districts to bill for Medicaid reimbursement for eligible state plan services provided in schools, schools can expand health services to Medicaid eligible students. In summary, the proposed amendment in item 4 could significantly improve access to school-based health services for students eligible for Medicaid. As a result, we could positively impact the health and well-being of Nevada students, particularly those for lower income families who rely on Medicaid for their health care needs. And I think Patrick was looking at me as though I said something inaccurately, so I think I did. We are proposing I want to be clear on some of the incentives that are a part of this amendment. It's I believe twofold. So we're looking at incentive payment program. This is item C, incentive payment program for CCBHCs and FQHCs to increase Medicaid reimbursement by at least 5%. So we have had a history, and I'm thinking that the school district might talk a little bit about this, where our school will contract with an FQHC, and that FQHC then does all the Medicaid billing. They collect the insurance data from the students that they service, and it has almost always, and I can't think of a single example where this didn't happen, has not penciled out for the FQHC to continue to provide those services. FQHCs have to provide services to everybody, but they don't have to in a school setting. And so if it doesn't pencil out in the school setting, then they retract back into their local setting and don't offer those contracted services to the schools. And second, We look at increasing Medicaid reimbursement rates by 5% for all eligible state plan services for services when provided in the school setting by a qualified provider. So these are contracted services that are outside of those FQHCs or CCBHCs. Okay, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Chair. Assemblywoman Gorillo, please.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward. I was just curious because I was looking. I found that there were 3,200 health or school-based health centers in the U.S., but I couldn't find out how many were in Nevada. By chance, would you happen to have that number?
I forgot to turn my mic off. Sarah Peters for the record. There's conflicting information out there, and this was one of the struggles in the interim. As far as I could gather, there are only 2 school-based health centers that are operational in the state of Nevada, and both of them are in charter school settings, not in our educational institutes. However, Clark County brought to my attention that they have a family services center, which is outside of the school-based center model, which functions relatively well. It's relatively new, and I can let them speak to that. As to the counties and schools implementing school-based health centers, there have been a couple of, my understanding is there have been a couple of schools that have adopted a model to provide school-based health center access, right, which means they would be in the schools, contracted through the schools. And all of them have failed, in part due to their inability to collect Medicaid through the consent waiver form from the students to access their Medicaid information, or through inability to charge or collect the information from the students' private insurance.
Thank you. Can I just have kind of a follow-up comment?
Please proceed.
Thank you. I used to work for an organization that had 4 of these school-based health centers, and asthma was one of the biggest factors that we saw, which is the number one reason a lot of kids miss school. And unfortunately, all 4 of them did have to close. So thank you so much for bringing this forward, because I think it's very important that our kids can get that treatment when they need that treatment. So thank you.
Assemblywoman Taylor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, Chair, for bringing this forward. I have a couple of questions, if you'll allow, Mr. Vice Chair.
That would be fine.
All right, awesome. So a couple of it, some of it is clarification, some of it is information. So I want a couple of things. I've gotten a lot of emails on this. I'm sure all of us have, right? And so a couple of things, just to review and make sure I have it, I understand it right, so I can respond appropriately. This is not health care without parental permission.
Sarah Peters for the record, correct.
I mean, I think that's because a lot of my, I don't think that's what this is, but I just want to make sure, because people want to know, that's fine. And a parent will sign their child up. Right now, there are 2 different sign-ups, but the parent has the opportunity to sign their child up when they sign their child up for Medicare, and you have to reapply for Medicare every year, for Medicaid. I'm sorry, because that's state and Medicaid every year, so that at that time the parent can say, yes, I want my child to have access to these whatever. So it is with parental permission.
Correct. And the opt-out is not that the parent wouldn't consent. It would be that the parent would consent unless they explicitly wanted to not consent, right? So it doesn't mean it wouldn't appear on the paperwork, right? It would just be, the default would be that your child would receive these services. And we do this in a lot of ways. When I was a kid, we did it with the fluoride treatment in our schools, right? And it helped prevent a number of oral health issues in our schools. I don't think we do that anymore, in part because we don't have funding for those kinds of programs actively, but this would be a similar model.
Okay, so again, just clarify, and thank you for that. So clarify, when a parent signs up their child for Medicaid, which is required on an annual basis, make sure they still qualify and so on, that's when they would sign their child up, should they want their child to have access to these services.
That's correct. And I actually would be interested in hearing from Clark County on how they imagine this working. As my understanding is that that consent is not necessarily even consent for the access to care. It is for the insurance information to be provided to the provider so that they can bill for the service rather than unlimited consent to access to that care. And our schools have an obligation, right? We already have nursing services, we already have counseling services, we already have social services in our schools that are provided by those schools to students and their families. That process doesn't change by this bill. This is specifically around how do we pay for it and make it more accessible, and how do we make it accessible for our providers to provide services in our schools for our kiddos, which they want to do, right? Nobody wants to leave our kiddos with no healthcare service. They want to be there, but they also, at the end of the day, have to pay their own bills. And this helps us enable that.
Thank you. That was going to be my second question, was the follow-up in that. That doesn't mean that now the school healthcare center, or whether it's done through family, right? We have family resource centers in Washoe County. If I put my school board hat back on, right, it doesn't mean that now they can just treat your child and not tell you anything and give them meds and all kinds of stuff without permission. The schools still have those permissions that are required currently, whether it's social services, whether it's therapy, where those things, it doesn't override any of those things that school districts already have in place.
Correct.
Okay, this is good, because this is clearing up some misconception out there, and I think that's a wonderful thing, right? Does this also include telehealth? Is there anything that will prohibit this from including telehealth?
Sarah Peters for the record. So if telehealth becomes a contractable service for school, and they would like to bill insurance for the services providers to students who are eligible within the insurance parameters, right, whether it's through private insurance or billing through Medicaid, then they would be included.
Okay, I thought so. And then just also for the record, there are things currently that districts have permission to bill Medicaid for, and serving students with parental permission and so on. So this isn't outside of some of those normal things that already happen. And then my last thing was, if you would explain certified community behavioral health centers and federally qualified health. For those that don't know that, and they're looking at, what does that mean? What can they do? Who are these people that now all of a sudden they can come in, if you would?
So I am a pseudo expert on a lot of things, in part because of where I am in this building. But this is a question that I would like to defer, if I can, to staff, because we have specific qualifiers either through the federal statutes or the state statutes on what qualifies as a certified community behavioral health center and what qualifies as a federal qualified health center.
Staff, would you like to respond?
Eric Robbins, LCB Legal, for the record. I will need to look those up because those are in federal law, and they're pretty detailed.
If I may, what that just mean? What does it mean here? I don't mean the extra. I appreciate that, Mr. Robbins, I do. But when we talk about that here, that means people that health centers that give us some, make it.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So these certified facilities, right? They go through a rigorous certification process through the federal government and the state government. They are required to provide services to people as a part of that qualification process, right? And they predominantly service our Medicaid and Medicare populations. We really emphasize the community-based community behavioral health centers because that keeps our behavioral health care in our communities. So families are more likely to stay together when they're in need of those behavioral health services. Our FQHCs, they offer services, and we've touched on this in quite a few ways through some of the Medicaid bills in the last couple of sessions, but they offer services from family, prenatal, postnatal, pediatric, all kinds of services in a community-based center, right? So it's a facility that offers those services, but they're all from certified, licensed medical professionals, and these facilities just have the obligation to serve our communities in a different way.
I appreciate that. And just one last thing.
Well, actually, let's let Mr. Ashton would like to add something, and then we'll go to Assemblyman Gray, and then we'll come back.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Vice Chair.
For the record, Patrick Ashton, Research Division, LCB. The question was, I think, what are federally qualified health centers and certified community behavioral health clinics? So first of all, I got here a definition from healthcare.gov regarding federally qualified health centers. These are federally funded nonprofit health centers or clinics that serve medically underserved areas and populations. Federally qualified health centers provide primary care services regardless of the ability of a client to pay, and services are provided on a sliding scale fee based on the ability to pay. Certified community behavioral health clinics is a model designed to ensure access to coordinated, comprehensive behavioral health care. They are required to serve anyone who requests care for mental health or substance use, regardless of their ability to pay, place of residence, or age, including developmentally appropriate care for children and youth. And this information was from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Assemblyman Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So the way it works, and I mean, with my two kids growing up and the way it is for my niece and nephew when I take them to the doctor and stuff, I pick them up from school, take them to doctor, we communicate and go through everything and then take them back. So the questions I have is, one, why do we need to have these school-based? I mean, that's, like I said, it's the way most families work, I believe. And then second, and more importantly, where's the parent's role in this? I mean, if they're seeing a provider at the school, is the parent expected to show up at the school and meet with the provider? Or worse yet, are we expecting the child to relay information back to the parent about, what's going on?
Thank you for the question, and I think I want to start here, well, first by saying my name's Sarah Peters for the record, but second by saying that these school-based services already exist in our schools, and your kid, you get a notice of whether to participate or not in some of those services or in all of those services. I don't think there are any that are forced upon a child without parental consent. Secondly, I want to just point out that I don't think it's the majority of families that have the ability to, one, take time off, two, have transportation to a physician, three, access to a physician. I know when we were looking for a pediatrician, it was incredibly difficult to find a pediatrician who was taking new patients. And four, sometimes even the know-how to figure out how to ask for the help that their kiddo needs. And we have triage in place, right, in our schools, counselors and social workers to help identify these needs for our kids. If we can say to a parent, hey, your kiddo needs something from a healthcare provider, and that family goes, how do I even find that? The school can say, hey, we have a partnership with this service provider that we can connect your kiddo with, you and your kiddo with, and provide this service directly to you. That cuts out all of this nuance of having to figure out how to do it by yourself when maybe you've never done it before. Maybe you've come from a family who really never saw a family physician, or maybe you came from a family who only saw one family physician who retired and you never had to look at how to find a family physician ever again. So I think that the goal of this is really to create greater accessibility to care providers. The school-based health care, right, there's not enough room in our schools to be able to provide things like even a physical examination, right? Which is why we broadened this to including FQHCs and other providers who could contract with the school to say, hey, we'll take your kids regardless of how they pay. And that way you can create an appointment through the school where your child spends most of their time, where you touch on them twice a day, right? Dropping your kid off, picking your kid up. Create that relationship with a physician, and then from there you have access to somebody who can care for you and your kids.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Newby, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Picking up on what one of my colleagues had mentioned, we've gotten a lot of emails on this, but I really support you bringing it forward. I think it's a great bill. I would point out that UNLV's, the Kirk Kerkorian School of Medicine, just partnered with CCSD for 2 clinics that just opened up, which is great. But I'd like to ask you a couple of questions from those emails, if you're all right with that. Let's see. Would these clinics put children at risk of predators?
Sarah Peters, for the record. This is an odd question because I guess in the school-based health center, the original language, it looked like we were opening up new clinics, right? But the intent is to partner with existing certified and licensed facilities and licensed providers who go through rigorous background checks and investigations from the state, right, or federal government. So this doesn't open up our children to unknown entities or predators.
Okay. Next, do these, with your permission, Mr. Vice Chair? Okay.
One more, and then we can come back later.
There was also belief in some of these emails that there would be gender identity or gender affirming care or any number of procedures or medications given in these clinics without the consent of the parent. Is that the case?
Sarah Peters, for the record, this bill does not intend to address any of the policies related to how services provided to children and their families. It only is addressing how we pay for it and how we get to that access.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry for the embarrassing questions.
I appreciate that some folks think they're embarrassing. I think that it is, it's good to ask these questions, but the assumption of what we're attempting to do in this building is what's embarrassing. We are here to represent our constituents and to protect our communities. And the idea that we would bring a bill that put our children and our youth at risk is regrettable.
Thank you. Assemblyman Hibbets, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and Chair, and all the chairs. So, correct me if I'm wrong, I do not see Ms. Weeks from DHHS in the audience today.
We have Marla McDade Williams in the audience with us today.
Who's Marla? Because this might be better directed. And my question is policy, but policy connected to the fiscal note that was submitted by DHHS.
I'm going to triage this because
absolutely.
the fiscal note is representative, sorry, Sarah Peters for the record, is representative of the bill as it was written, right, which would include school-based health centers in our schools. What we're looking at with this amendment is to modify that to contracted services, which in a lot of cases are existing coverage, right, for existing Medicaid eligible people. And so I think that to look at the fiscal note as it exists today is not representative of what the real fiscal impact will look like to the state.
And that is actually half of my question. The other half is, well, maybe 2/3. I realize that the proposed amendment was dated today, so DHHS probably hasn't had a chance to review it to determine whether or not that's going to impact the fiscal note, and if so, plus, minus, not impact, that kind of thing.
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, Deputy Director of Programs for Nevada's Department of Health and Human Services. So based on the discussion today, the Assemblywoman is correct. If you're not adding a new service and you're only gaining access to services that already exist, there's no additional new cost.
Please go ahead.
And may we expect to see an updated fiscal note from DHHS based on the amendment at some point? It doesn't need to be before we get rid of it here.
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, I will defer to your staff, but we generally don't submit updated fiscal notes based on changes. It's not required as part of the process, and we generally show up in the money committees and reconfirm if there are changes in costs if this gets to that point.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice Chair and Chair.
Okay, I'm going to now do a second round. If you've not seen anybody who hasn't had a first chance, but do let me know if you have a question. So let's go back to Assemblywoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and I really just want to, and I thank you for the questions, and I thank you for being open to the questions. There's a lot of misinformation, and people are asking based upon those, and I think it's a good time to clarify that. I would just say, and this is probably just saying for the record, as a former school board trustee, school boards aren't itching at a chance to get into the business of doing anything other than educate children. It's the other things that unfortunately become barriers to educating children that make schools have to feed children, that make schools have to care for children, whether it's mental health, whether we've talked about that, whether it's physical health, right? Whether it's washing kids' clothes sometimes, whether it's having a food made. School boards, schools get into that business because children need that to be able to learn. And none of those things occur outside of parental permission. I think it's really important to know that because parents are an important piece and they should be involved in this. And then finally, the point is I think the Assemblywoman has made it very clear this is prescriptive. It's prescriptive for a school district. It is prescriptive for a family. If this is not something that works or that needs for, then that's okay. That's quite all right. But there are many families that need the additional help. And if that's the case, it's a barrier for children learning, and that's why schools get into these other things, only because of that. So I'll take my school board hat back off now. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions? Assemblywoman Newby, did you want any follow-up? Okay, before we go to testimony, so just to be clear, this bill is not changing in any way the way services are provided. It's about how to pay for the services. Is that an accurate description?
That is the intent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we can now go to testimony. So if you would like to testify in support of AB 237, please come to the table, and if we fill up the table, as soon as somebody finishes, they'll rotate off and we can open it up for the next person. So please start by stating your name and spelling it. And please go forward. Ms. Case, would you like to start?
I would love to. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. My name is Leah Case, Leacase, here today on behalf of the Nevada Primary Care Association, representing the federally qualified health centers across the state. I have a handy-dandy packet that has all of the information on what is a community health center, what are FQHCs. I will be sure that these get dropped off in all of your offices. Community Health Provider Day was at the beginning of February, so some of that information may be now buried under all of the bills that I assume you are all frantically reading as we enter these deadlines. I do want to let you know that there are currently 3 school-based health centers run by FQHCs in the state. That is CP Squires Elementary in North Las Vegas, Bauer School-Based Health Center at Basic Academy in Henderson, and then here in Carson City at the Gleason facility. FQHC members of Nevada Primary Care Association served 24,000 school-aged children in 2021. And the focus on school-based health centers is on keeping kids engaged in their health care as they become adults, so that they are more likely to be healthier adults and so that they can connect with the primary care provider as they, age out of the parental care that we are giving them. So thank you so much, and I am happy to follow up with more information on federally qualified health centers anytime.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and the committee. My name is Shelby Swartz of Battleborn Progress. That's SHELBIE-SWARTZ. I am here today in strong support of AB 237 to provide quality health care at affordable rates to our state students, regardless of the students or their family's financial situation. No student in the state of Nevada should be denied quality care due to their insured status or their family's financial status. With this bill, our state can ensure that no child is left untreated or neglected. Access to quality health care is key to supporting healthy development and ensuring that no student is denied the ability to learn due to health concerns. Allowing Medicaid to negotiate with student health centers will make treatment affordable and accessible to all of Nevada's children. Healthcare is a human right, and that must apply to all Nevadans, including our most vulnerable communities, particularly our children and students. Thank you so much to Assemblywoman Peters and to the committee for your work to expand Medicaid and provide quality health care to all Nevadans.
Thank you, Ms. Swartz. Next, please.
My name is Kasia Caldwell, Kasia Caldwell, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and licensed school-based social worker in the state of Nevada by the Department of Education. And I have worked in Title I schools in Las Vegas for several years and now own a group practice in Las Vegas. And one of the biggest barriers that I saw to children accessing services was the lack of trust that families have in our healthcare system and their access to that system. And what is wonderful about this bill in increasing that access is we rely on the trust that educators and other professionals that see these children day in and day out, that they have with these children. And so they see the behaviors, they see the challenges they're facing, and they can suggest and recommend that they access these services and actually provide them an outlet to be able to get there. As a community-based mental health clinician, I can tell you my afternoon slots are very limited. And my clients are scheduled out 4 weeks to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks for those afternoon sessions. And they're not, in the meantime, those children are not receiving services. Their behaviors are escalating. They're impacting the other children's ability to receive education in their community. And it's very difficult to do that. And so having these services available to them within the school setting, and also having other clinicians that are able to clear their schedules and make it more available to these students by increasing that reimbursement rate, which is quite laughable most of the time here in our community, would greater increase that access as well. As far as also enhancing communication is really important for those kiddos. So a lot of times our community-based mental health professionals are not able to coordinate services with our school-based clinician or school-based providers. And so having that access increased and being able to facilitate that communication around that child and with their parents and the other people that are in their lives on a daily basis is very important. Also, what we see is a revolving door of often with our students of going into higher levels of care, residential treatment, hospitalizations. Increasing that access reduces those access to higher levels of care and reduces that expense that goes from $150 a session to thousands of dollars for several days of treatment. If we can increase that access and get them in the door to those services, it's going to greatly reduce that revolving door of hospitalization, residential treatment, things of that nature that are costing Medicaid lots and lots of money. And so this is a way to to get children access to mental health treatment at that lower level of care versus that higher level of care, which is often where we end up going. And then, so thank you. I very much am in support of this bill, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Caldwell? Is there anybody else here in Carson City who would like to testify in support of AB 237? Okay, it looks like we may have some people to testify in support in Las Vegas. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Peters and committee. My name is Monica Cortez, C-O-R-T-E-Z. I'm the Chief of Health and Student Services Division at Clark County School District. The Clark County School District is in support of Assembly Bill 237, which seeks to increase accessibility for students to qualify for health care through schools. To give perspective, during the most recent school year, which is August through December 2022, a total of 7,572 students assessed health services through CCSD school-based health centers. We'll speak about additional health centers in just a little bit, but this bill will allow the district to expand covered services to all eligible students. Specifically, we have 360 schools, which is all of our schools, that receive support, mental health support. We have, we have 2 schools that are receiving eye care, 2 schools that receive dental school-based health, 3 physical medical, as well as we have a mobile dental at multiple schools, and we also have Hazel Health at 20 schools for physical health. We would like to especially thank the sponsor for working directly with the school districts to develop and bring forward the necessary amendment language changes for the bill. The most important being requiring all private health insurers to reimburse any qualified health-related services provided to Nevada school student through a school-based health center program, as if they were rendered to an in-network provider for the same service. Waiving cost-sharing requirements such as qualified health-related services, including without limitation any copays, coinsurance, and deductibles, regardless of the plan design, to the extent authorized by federal law. Requiring the director of the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services to do the following: seek to implement parental consent to permit the sharing of health-related data with relevant education and health agencies, establish an incentive payment program that increases Medicaid reimbursement by at least 5%, and ensuring school districts, including the local and state education agencies, are eligible to bill for Medicaid reimbursement. I have two experts with me as well. I have Sherry McPartlin, who is our chief nurse, and I also have Nancy Kane, that is our coordinator for Medicaid school-based health services if there are additional questions. We absolutely did want to ensure that we addressed the question of why this would pertain to all students, and there are many reasons for all students to be able to access the school-based health centers with parents' permission. And I'd like to answer those questions at your convenience.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to testify in support in Las Vegas?
Vice Chair, I don't see anyone that is wanting to, not to speak for the group.
Thank you, and thank you for your willingness to answer questions. Broadcasting, do we have anybody online in support?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 237, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you'd like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 237, please press star 9 now. Vice Chair, there are no callers. One moment, there is a caller that just decided to participate.
Hello?
We can hear you. You may go
Hello?
on.
Hello, yes. My name is Andre Robinson, and I live in Las Vegas. And I'm a patient, Cleveland Clinic, and am part of the music therapy. I just want to state a couple things real quick. I have epileptic, I have major memory loss, and since 2016 I have been in music therapy, and it's actually helped quite a bit with my memory, with depression, and able to get me back out. You know, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I'm so sorry, then I got cut off.
Yeah, no, we can hear you. The bill you're addressing, we've finished hearing, but if you could at least speak, give us a summary of what your comments are. We've moved on to another bill, but please let us know.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll be very brief. As I stated, I'm in music therapy. It's helped tremendously. I know several people that have noticed a huge difference, and I just want to support the bill. Again, my name is Andre Robinson of Las Vegas. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for calling in. Is there anybody else in support of Assembly Bill 237 on the phone?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 237, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Vice Chair, there are no other callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. We can now move to opposition testimony. We'll start here in Carson City, and hopefully we'll have time for everybody, but we don't want to go too far, so you'll have at least as much time as the support testimony.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Katrin Sinkiewicz, and I'm a parent and a resident of Douglas County. I'm here today representing Health Freedom Nevada, a nonpartisan, all-volunteer grassroots organization of approximately 5,000 Nevada families. We believe in religious freedom and parental rights for all, including parental rights for minor children in their healthcare decisions. Health Freedom Nevada serves also as the official Nevada affiliate for Children's Health Defense and Stand for Health Freedom. We strongly oppose AB 237 as it has the potential for interfering with the rights of parents to direct and supervise the medical care of their minor children for whom they are responsible by law. In combination with SB 172, which is currently being considered in the Senate and which would allow minor children of any age to give their express consent to medical care, including pharmaceutical drugs, vaccines, and medical treatments, these bills in tandem are attempting to bypass parental consent and knowledge of medical care of their children. Recently, I'm sure most of you are not aware, the American Academy of Pediatrics actually defined parents as a quote-unquote barrier to care for children, which is very concerning to us. Given that Nevada schools are currently ranked 49th in the country for academics, we would hope that this legislative body would choose to focus instead on improving the education that our children receive, including learning how to read, write, and do math, rather than diluting the purpose of the public education system with social programs such as healthcare in schools. Healthcare should remain separate and should fully include parental involvement. The medical freedom movement has seen tremendous growth in the past few years in light of the many discrepancies and errors made evident by decisions made by the public health officials over the pandemic years. Many families are, as a result, choosing to opt out of systems that threaten their parental rights and their ability to directly oversee their children's health care. This has been evident particularly in states such as California or Oregon, where parents' rights have been eroded by legislation. Enrollment in the public education systems in these states that I just mentioned earlier have seen drastic reductions in enrollment in the past few years. Are you prepared for the mass exodus from the public education system in favor of homeschooling and private education? There are a lot of families that have left those states because they felt that their rights were taken away. And I guess that's all I have. Please vote no on AB 237 and keep education and health care separate from one another. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Hanson or Rogers, whoever wants to go next.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Janine Hanson. I'm the State President of Nevada Families for Freedom. We appreciate the amendment brought by Assemblywoman Peters, which did resolve many of the concerns over which you received emails. Those were real because that particular part of the bill connects with many others going on in this building, as you have heard. It is important to mention that federally qualified health centers do not have parental consent to provide contraceptives, STD treatment, vaccines for HPV, and other preventatives for AIDS treatment. So you need to be aware of that. Also, with Nevada Family Resource Centers that are in the Senate Bill 172, they seek to remove parental consent for all of those items. And so that's one of the reasons we continue to be concerned when we see a web of bills doing these similar things. And also SB 163 provided that Medicaid would be used for treatment of gender dysphoria. So there is another place where our concern emanates from, and SB 419, which would provide Medicaid for all illegal aliens. And that's how, in the original bill of Assemblywoman Peters, that illegal aliens and possibly predators who were unvetted would have access to the schools, because if they were treating all people who were on Medicaid and they were doing it in the schools, that's where the concern arises. So they were very legitimate concerns, and we're thankful for the amendment, which does resolve some of those issues. I think it's important to know that many of the family resource centers are in the schools. For instance, the Bernice Matthews Elementary School has in Washoe County has a family resource center in it. There's one, I believe, in Wells that has a family resource center in it. And these family resource centers, under Senate Bill 172, would remove parental consent and parental authority over these critical issues, such as I mentioned before. And so that continues to create our concern. And one of the other concerns we're still interested in is parental consent. We don't want opt-out. That's automatically assuming that people are in if they don't opt out. We want parents to specifically say, we want to opt in. We make the decision as parents that we want to be part of this process. You know, I have 4 children and I have 17 grandchildren, and I'm very interested in what happens with our children in the schools. And I think we need to always be sure we are supporting parental involvement. And when we have opt-in, then we are supporting parental involvement. They have to make an affirmative decision as to whether their child will be involved in the schools. So we can see that parental rights are definitely being significantly eroded through the federally qualified health centers and possibly now in other bills in this building through the Nevada Family Resource Centers. We are thankful for the amendment which has been presented, which gutted the bill essentially and took out almost all the things that we were concerned about. But we continue to be aware and to hope that you will be aware also that we are not just in this committee looking at this bill, we are watching what's happening in this whole legislature with many of these bills that are attacking parental consent. And we want to be responsible for our children and our grandchildren and the medical treatment that they receive. The government is not responsible for that. Parents are, and they need to be given every opportunity to assert that authority and responsibility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Ms. Rogers?
Casey Rogers for the record. I just like to highlight a term that was used earlier, untreated, and I find that that is an interesting sentence. Now I feel that is actually the goal. Everything that's happening with the World Health Organization, the CDC, everything that's happened since 2020 has happened. You think that I would actually believe in your decisions, your words, your ideas, that I'm supposed to all of a sudden trust what you say after you masked our children, illegally masked our children, forced them into it, forced them into an experimental drug, bioweapon. Now all of a sudden we have myocarditis, pericarditis. Have you looked in the increase on disease? Have you looked in the increase on the cancers? Have you looked in the increase that has happened that was actually pushed on our families throughout the entire state? And now all of a sudden we're supposed to trust that you guys are virtuous? I don't think so. I absolutely oppose this bill because honestly, once it comes around, just like it did in 1933 at the end, when the Nazi regime did what they did to families and people, just remember that we're not going to forget that. We're not going to forget the force that you put on us, the censorship that you put on us, on our kids, and everything else that you've done so far. They're our kids. Leave them alone.
Thank you for your testimony. Let's go to the next person.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nancy Jones. I'm a Douglas County resident and a parent, and I oppose this bill. I have concerns about potential unintended consequences of the bill. It sounds like the intentions are to make sure that people have more access to services, including services within the school setting. But my concern is that we have a system in our nation and in our state that relies on the separation of powers, and that's for the protection of freedom and for the protection of liberty. And when we combine those powers all in one place, we are starting to erode that protection. And in a similar vein, by combining medical services with school services, I believe that muddies the waters and dilutes both in being able to be effective by not being separate. Also, I'm concerned that there would be data situations there. We already have situations in the school districts currently that the student data is not well protected, so this would add another layer of student data being their private health information of students and children being added to their school records, which would be then, I would be concerned that those would be subject to breach as other school data has been. And I'm also concerned that creates essentially a new system that doesn't currently exist in Nevada law, this school-based health center idea. It doesn't exist anywhere else in law, but it sounds like there are places where federally qualified health centers, for instance, offer services for the types of populations that it sounds like you're trying to reach through this bill. And so I would say let's support those and not conflate them with the school district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Next, please.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and Committee. My name is Lynn Chapman, and I'm the State Treasurer of the Independent American Party. And I felt ambushed hearing that there was yet another amendment, and I had come down here to speak on one bill, and now I'm speaking on a different bill, but I am pleased to see, I am pleased with the amendment, and so that's a good thing. I did have some concerns. The opt-out, parents should always be not worried about whether they're going to opt in or opt out. We should always be opting in if we need to do something, but not opting out. That's a big concern. And the other thing is, Assemblyman Hibbets spoke about or asked the question about the fiscal note, and we were quite concerned about that. So that was cleared up, and thank you for asking that question. The data sharing is the other thing that we were really very concerned about, and I'd like to ditto. IAP is dittoing everybody else's concerns. We had the same concerns, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Jamie Hepworth, and I'm a mother of 5, and I live in Gardnerville. I am here to speak out in opposition to AB 237. School-based health centers are just a euphemism for the expansion of the medical industrial complex. Let's be honest here that the federally funded approaches to health care do not actually include all of the ways that health issues can be addressed. It privileges one approach, and that is a pharmaceutically based approach to health care. And if they're put in schools, my concern is that it will encourage a culture of pharmaceutical use and without parental knowledge. I think that some of the changes that have been made to the bill are good. I would love to also add my voice to say that I think it should be parental opt-in instead of opt-out, so that they don't have to worry about if choices are being made without their consent or agreeing with the healthcare philosophy that would be obviously promoted and from one angle. Also, healthcare is just simply outside the purview of schooling. A lot of bills have been put into play this year that are looking at eroding the rights of parents to make decisions for their children and specifically for their children's health care. And so I think it's best when schools focus on the schooling and that health care is separate. Also, I have a concern that there aren't provisions in this bill that would protect the children's private health and medical information from being utilized to further separate the parent and child relationship. So please oppose AB 237. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hepworth. Who's next, please?
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Humphrey, and this time I'm opposing a bill. My original response to this is different because I wasn't aware of the amendment that were made. But so for my little amendments that I've taken notes on, I oppose having the health centers in schools. I feel schools should be designated for learning. Our kids are so far behind and so lack of learning. They're 49th in the state, which is just horrible. And to focus and have health centers there. We don't need that. People can take kids to doctors. We also have a shortage of medical personnel in this state, so you're going to have more doctors at these health centers, and that's going to further the delay for people to be able to see doctors or PAs or nurses. I just think I also ditto everything else that people have spoken on opposing this bill. Everything they have said, I totally agree with. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Humphrey. Next, please.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Karen Stevens. I always feel like I'm trying to reach over a counter to speak. I too oppose the amended Bill 237, although I think that the amendments that were made were excellent because that was most of my concerns. But really, having retired from the Department of Education, I feel that the schools should be focused on teaching students. And I know that Nevada has ranked between 47 and 49 for at least the last 10 years. So that really is indicative that our students are not receiving the scholastic help that they need to progress. Instead, we're taking away important subjects like music, drama, handwriting. I don't know how is this child supposed to learn how to sign his name if they're not teaching them that kind of things? So it's, I think we need to look back at the basics of what schools are about. And maybe I'm old-fashioned because we didn't have health centers when I was growing up. We went to school to learn how to read, write, and arithmetic. And so all of this foo-foo stuff with health centers is not what schools were originally made to do. So I hope you join me in opposing Bill 237. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. It looks like we have somebody in Las Vegas. Are you there to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 237?
Yes.
Please go ahead. And remember to state
Good
your name
afternoon.
and spell your name.
My name is C.T. Wong, W-A-N-G. Thank you all for doing the job that you guys do. I don't envy you one little bit. I agree with all the previous oppositions, especially the first two speakers. I agree especially they dealt more with the micro aspects of this thing, and the one I want to focus on was the opt-in versus opt-out. Family parents need to opt in. They need to be offered the opportunity to elect to opt in instead of, oh, if you want to opt out, you have to come in and let us know. That takes away parental responsibility and authority. My one micro perspective. My macro perspective. I was reading some of the background on this thing, and it says that 237 would expand, quote, care to any persons. And in conjunction with SB 419, that opens up a Pandora's box to anybody coming into these health centers. That's incredible. What does that do? And we talked about fiscal. What will that do to the infrastructure at each of these health centers that are all of a sudden going to explode in Nevada? Just the facilities, let alone the staff. What does that do to the PERS system? The PERS system is already stressed. What will it do to that? Fiscal, you need to take a hard look at that. This is totally anathema to what education should be. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Let's stick to that. I oppose 237. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Is there anybody else in opposition in Las Vegas? Okay, broadcasting, could you open the phones for opposition to Assembly Bill 237?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 237, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon. CYRUSHOJJATY. I will ditto the comments made by the previous folks who testified. I'm also concerned that given that there's a bill to expand Medicaid to illegal aliens, these services will particularly cater to these individuals. And remember, because a lot of efforts to do one thing needs multiple bills to happen. Other than that, yield my time.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please.
I would like to oppose the bill as well. I believe that it takes away parental rights, and there is no place for health care within the education system that's already struggling on its own. We need to focus on education as education and on healthcare as healthcare, and not mix the two together and ruin both.
Okay, would you like to identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Marcelina Phillips.
Okay, thank you for calling. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Lynn Ivanov, M86, last name I'll spell IVNOFF. I am opposed to this bill due to all the things already mentioned, but also, hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
One of the people who was presenting the bill said parents have lost trust in the healthcare, so the teachers can talk kids into taking those services. Parents have lost trust in the healthcare. Parents are the ones who decide what is best for their kids. Why do you think parents lost trust in care? Because you're trying to shove in our faces, in our throats, things that are not for us or for our kids. So now you're trying to circumvent our rights through different bills. Please see what this bill is for and oppose it. It's all they're trying to do to circumvent our parental rights, our citizen rights, our respect. The people that never paid into the system one time, it comes just to our country. It's upsetting on how you guys are choosing to spend our hard money. Please oppose this bill. There is nothing to come from it, especially this opt-in, opt-out option. If my child to get any services, I know how to find them. I don't need the school to tell me. Thank you, and have a lovely day.
Thank you for your testimony. Next caller, please.
Vice Chair, there are no other callers to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. We'll move to neutral testimony. Is there anybody here? I see somebody. Ms. McDade-Williams, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. For the record, Marla McDade-Williams, Deputy Director of Programs, Department of Health and Human Services. I just wanted to make one clarification about the question earlier about the fiscal costs. So I had forgotten about the 5% increase. So we will be working out a cost estimate for the anticipated increase in rates for some of those providers, and that will go to the money committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody in Las Vegas in neutral? How about on the phones? Broadcasting, do we have anybody in neutral on the phones?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill AB 237, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Vice Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in neutral at this time.
Okay, we'll close testimony. And Chair Peters, thank you for expanding the common ground on this bill with your amendment. And any closing remarks?
Thank you, Vice Chair Sarah Peters, for the record. One of the things I love in this building is how much we agree with each other on how our kids deserve better. Sometimes the path we want to take are different. And for me, understanding that we have a hierarchy of needs, that you cannot learn if you are ill, that you cannot learn if you are hungry, that you cannot learn if you don't have a roof over your head or a place to sleep and are getting a night's rest. That is what we're trying to establish in this bill, is greater access to being healthy so that you can continue to learn in the learning environment. And taking those resources, right, where they should be going to our children, and not having to spread our educational resources to triage the needs of our kiddos in their schools. I thank our committee member, Assemblywoman Taylor, for making that point, that our educators deserve to be educators. And what they spend time doing is triaging our kids' mental and emotional and physical well-being. And I think it's our job, right, to step in and make sure that the right people are in the right places to ensure our kiddos are safe and healthy and happy and functional. And then, right, then they can learn. I thank you for your time today, and I thank the opposition for their passion for our kiddos and our community, and I look forward to continuing to work on getting this drafted amendment out into a broader conceptual amendment, well, a mock-up amendment that we can run around and I can talk more with you about how that will function fully. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 237 and welcome back our chair for our final bill for this afternoon.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, committee members. I always appreciate your questions. This is a joy of a committee to be chairing this session. I have another bill I have to go and present in Commerce and Labor, but I will start with opening the hearing on our next bill and then pass off to our Vice Chair and then head out to my next committee hearing. We will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 422, which revises provisions related to autism spectrum disorder. Thank you for being here, Assemblywoman. It's great to have you. Please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Peters and members of the committee. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Michelle Gorlow, representing Assembly District 35, and I am pleased to present Assembly Bill 422. Assembly Bill 422 will create a pilot program through the Autism Treatment Assistance Program for Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, also known as FASD, to identify appropriate services for children with the diagnosis of FASD who do not qualify for developmental services through the regional centers. Regional centers' eligibility criteria is based on meeting an institutional level of care, so there is a gap in services for those children who have been or have an FASD diagnosis but do not meet that higher level of care. These children and their families are still in need of services and supports to help them address the behaviors to be successful. Although this is not a finance committee, I do want it known that there is a potential funding option through the American Rescue Plan Act fund, also known as ARPA. We've had conversations previously in this committee about FASD, but I'd like to go over a couple of the facts again. According to the CDC Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, the estimated prevalence of alcohol use among women of childbearing age is 48.3%. And if a woman consumes alcohol during her pregnancy, then her child is at risk of FASD, which is a collection of diagnoses representing a range of effects and conditions which may manifest in different ways and can be hard to diagnose, leaving individuals with service gaps to meet critical medical and behavioral health services and social supports. The proposed pilot program would follow the Families Moving Forward, also the FMF program, and other evidence-based models, and would include that certain clinical professionals with a license in counseling, social work, psychology, or related fields will receive specialized training and certification for the FMF model or other evidence-based models for FASD intervention. Services follow the FMF model to provide caregiver support and coaching, psychoeducation on effects of prenatal alcohol exposure, treatment relevant to FASD, and advocacy,
skill building and caregiver use of proactive parenting strategies and behavioral planning, and targeting school and provider consultation and community linkage. Service delivery is up to 90 minutes per session, twice a month, and is not to exceed 12 months. ASDS would follow purchasing requirements to procure training with the FMF Institute and pay for contractors' training for specialized FMF training and fidelity hours for certification. In addition, a total of 15 ADSD clinical staff combined from Developmental Services, Autism Treatment Assistance Program, also known as ATAP, and Nevada Early Intervention Services, you might see that as NEIS, will be trained and certified in the FMS practices. This will provide knowledge and skill for ADSD programs where FASD or related conditions such as autism may be present as a dual diagnosis. And with that, I will open it up to questions.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez, please.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the presentation. I was just curious, when a child is 3 years or younger, who is doing that diagnosis?
For the record, Michelle Gorlow. In many cases, a pediatrician will notice that there is a developmental or communication delay, and then they will refer them to Nevada Early Intervention Services, where a developmental specialist will assess them and find out if there's a delay, but that's not the actual diagnosis. Sometimes that diagnosis could be difficult to obtain, especially with a child that has FASD. That is why this pilot program to help train those professionals to actually diagnose. For children with autism, it's mostly done by pediatric neurologists, psychiatrists, or psychologists, although pediatricians can do it as well.
I have a question, please. Okay. In looking at the bill, is there an amendment, or where is the connection to fetal alcohol syndrome? As I'm looking at the bill, I'm not seeing that. I see the autism, presumptive eligibility. What's the connection?
For the record, Michelle Gorlow, you should have a proposed conceptual amendment. The current language, and it's not on, well, then I apologize because this was sent to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I will
Doesn't
reach out
seem to be on Nellis yet. Okay. Do
reach out to Mr.
committee
Ashton.
members have the amendment? Yeah, we don't seem to have it, so, so
my
if you
face
could
is red,
explain the
sorry.
distinction between what we see and what you're discussing, that would be helpful.
What you see is going to be removed because in current practice in that bill, and I can back up, originally the intent of the legislation was going to be to help children that was potentially diagnosed with autism to receive ABA therapy sooner. When the language came out, really, it's already being done through Nevada Early Intervention Services. These children are being diagnosed by their pediatrician, say that there's a delay. They're going on to a provider of early intervention, being assessed by a developmental specialist, and going through early intervention. And that's really for any child that may have a genetic condition or just a general delay. Prematurity, a lot of times that has a delay to it as well. So that was the original language. You should have had a conceptual amendment that would actually put in the pilot program, and I apologize because it was sent to committee, so I'm not really sure what happened to it.
Okay, I'm sure we'll be able to get that circulated. In the meantime, Assemblywoman Taylor, Thomas, I think.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I know Assemblywoman Taylor always has questions, but thank you for the presentation, and I do appreciate it. And my question actually, we keep hearing pediatrician. What about those kids that don't see a pediatrician until they're in school? What happens then with them?
Thank you for the question. For the record, Michelle Gorlow, representing Assembly District 35. If they're not seeing a pediatrician, then they are being missed. They're not getting the services that they need. You can self-refer to early intervention, although it's not a high number of families that do that. But just in case anyone's hearing and they suspect their child has a delay and is not meeting his or her milestones, a parent can self-refer to an early intervention community provider. A developmental specialist will assess them. That assessment is usually available at no cost, and then they can put them on a plan if the child does meet the criteria.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So, those kids that have not seen a pediatrician or doctor, we can rely on the school to make note of maybe their condition and refer them?
For the record, Michelle Gorlow. Yes, and I do want to clarify that it's not just a pediatrician that can do the assessment or the referral. An APRN or nurse practitioner can, as well as a physician assistant. But yes, they will be missed. And early intervention is only until age 3. So after that, then there's other services available for those children.
Thank you, and the amendment has been sent to everybody, but it is a very short paragraph, as the Assemblywoman indicated, to replace the current bill with a pilot program for treatment of infants with fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yes, thank you. And as, if I may, Michelle Gorla, for the record, the pilot program is going to help create the necessary workforce to help treat children who have delays, especially with fetal alcohol syndrome disorder and autism. We don't have a very robust mental health and developmental workforce in that area, and that's what this pilot is going to help do as well.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Actually, the amendment answered my question, so I wanted to know what the pilot program was going to do. Yeah, I have it, but I'll take it this way too.
Okay.
We all have it. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to know, there's going to be a pilot program. What's it going to do? So, and you put it here now. I can, if I may, though. So that would be, they would begin to identify some students early and begin to give them some children early and begin to give them some services and monitor. Is that what you envision it looking like?
For the record, Michelle Gorlow, and yes, the pilot program will help to identify current workforce and train them specifically on identifying FASD versus autism. The two conditions are very, very similar, and a lot of times there are dual diagnoses because they both are neurological disorders. With fetal alcohol syndrome, a lot of times what we'll find is that there's not, there's an impulse control, and those children tend to be a little bit more social than some of the children who are on the autism spectrum. But again, they have a lot of the very same communication and neurological delays that each one has, and again, they can be dual diagnosed as well that are being missed. But the treatment is very similar as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Vice
you.
Chair.
Any other questions? Assemblyman Hibbets.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just a quick clarification. So is the intent of the amendment, is that to get rid of the original portion of AB 422 that was going to be changed and replace it with what is in the amendment?
Thank you, Assemblyman Hibbets. For the record, Michelle Gorlow. And yes, what is in the current language of the bill is already being done through early intervention. Those children have a delay. They're going through the process of being assessed for what their delays are and are usually going to early intervention, excuse me, if they're meeting those criteria. So that current, it's being done. So, yeah.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I understood properly. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I think we can go to testimony. Is there anybody here in? Yes, there is. So please proceed to the table and again, this is testimony in support of the Assembly Bill 422. We have Connor Kane, and then would you like to start, and then we'll continue down the line?
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Orentlicker, and I'll start, if I can, well, first with my name, Connor Kane, C-O-N-N-O-R-C-A-I-N, in support of Assembly Bill 422 on behalf of Torrey University, Nevada. I'll start with a confession, which is I'm just looking at the amendment for the first time, but if I could take just 60 seconds, not 60 minutes, I promise, of the committee's time, just tell you a little bit about Toro's Autism Center and why this issue is so important to them. I'd greatly appreciate the opportunity to do that. Vice Chair Ornlicker, members of the committee, again, Connor Kane, I'm testifying in support of Assembly Bill 422 on behalf of Torrey University, Nevada. The Sharon Sigmund Pierce and Stephen Pierce Center for Autism and Developmental Disabilities at Torrey University sees more than 500 patient visits per month providing speech therapy and behavioral therapy to children that have been diagnosed with autism. We do not turn any child away and utilize scholarships and grants for children that have no insurance. There's a long wait list to get into the program. The center currently has a handful of children under the age of 2.5, and some of them are not covered by insurance because their plans require a neuropsychologist to evaluate them. Unfortunately, neuropsychologists do not evaluate these children until they are older than 2.5 to assign a true autism diagnosis. On top of that, neuropsychologists in the area sometimes have a wait list of 12 or more months. For these children, we currently rely on grants to help fund their treatment. While we will continue to treat these children, we believe AB 422 is an important step towards providing access to critical services for children with autism. We urge your support of AB 422, as early intervention, as you've heard from the bill's sponsor, is the key to treating these youngsters and giving them an opportunity to achieve their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kay. Mr. Norman?
Chair, members of the committee, Jonathan Norman, NORMAN, Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. We represent between 3,000 and 4,000 kids in foster care at any given time. In representing youth in foster care, some of the youth that are the most challenging to find appropriate services and supports for are those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Youth with FASD in particular have unique barriers to services, as there are little to no services in the community to meet the growing needs of this specialized population. We have a long way to go to be able to effectively identify and diagnose youth with these conditions, which often hide in plain sight. Programs like Grant a Gift for Ackerman would expand assessment capacity. That allows us to gain ground. The more youth who are assessed and diagnosed, the more that will need treatment. Currently, one of the only treatments available is applied behavioral analysis, and it is in short supply, especially for those specifically trained to use it for FASD diagnoses. Accordingly, we would support this AB 422 and the proposed pilot program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Mr. Musgrove, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Dan Musgrove, representing Magellan Health. I would just echo the comments of the two previous, give you a good ditto and say this is early intervention is critical, and would be a great pilot program, and we support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Case, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the committee. Leah Case, LEA, CASE, here at the moment on behalf of Children's Advocacy Alliance, CAA Nevada. We have worked over the interim to find ways to fund and serve children with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. It's a challenge. They kind of fall in this gap between, what we can provide at ADSD and what Medicaid does, and there's just a whole world of services that these kids need. So wholeheartedly in support on behalf of CAA and looking forward to working with ADSD on this pilot program. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like we have people wanting to testify in Las Vegas. Is that correct? Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Yesenia Gonzalez. I am the assistant to Azul Blue United by Autism, a nonprofit organization serving families in Las Vegas, Nevada since 2010. As of 2023, per the CDC, 1 in 36 children have been identified with autism. 1 in 54 was the rate when my son was finally diagnosed. As you can see, the rates are rising. Autism is 4 times more common in boys and girls. Autism doesn't discriminate as it affects all racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic groups throughout the U.S. I am a mother that is autistic, and I am the mother of an amazing 13-year-old autistic boy. As a mother who fought and begged for answers 10 years ago, I support AB 422. At the age of 3, early intervention services like Child Finder would help to identify that my son had special needs. Unfortunately, another 3 years later is when my child finally was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. My son was at high risk due to being nonverbal and having developmental delays at the age of 3. His schools didn't know how to deal with my son's needs as he was honestly a walking question mark, and it was a battle to get the proper services for him, and yet they still are. Had my son been identified sooner, my son wouldn't have struggled as he did. Unfortunately, many families in our communities face these disparities and have been on extensive long waiting lists for services to identify their child's neurodevelopmental needs. Early intervention is key, but sadly, we do not see that. Our children are severely impacted by the lack of resources and support. Families are left with no answers and are heartbroken due to being unable to help their child. We keep falling behind instead of moving forward, and our children are paying the price. Azul Blue United by Autism sees the need within our families and our communities, and I hope you all do too. Azul Blue United by Autism supports AB 422. We implore you to please hear us. Help our community to finally have answers. Children are affected academically due to the lack of a diagnosis. Please don't let our families continue through this anguish. Our children in Nevada deserve better. Please vote in support for AB 422. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gonzalez, for your testimony and advocacy. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas who would like to testify?
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Cohen for the record. Ditto. Thank you, and I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Anybody else? Okay, broadcasting. Do we have people on the line who want to testify in support of AB 422?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 422, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 422, please press star 9 now.
Good afternoon. My name is Shelley Speck. That's S-H-E-L-L-Y. Last name is spelled S-P-E-C-K. And I'm calling in support of AB 422. I just want to ditto the last remarks and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Speck. Next caller, please.
Vice Chair, there are no other callers choosing to participate at this time.
Very good. Let's now move to opposition testimony. Anybody here in Carson City? Okay. In Las Vegas? Anybody in opposition? Broadcasting on the phone, do we have anybody in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 422, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 422, please press star 9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits, 690. Could you please press star 6 to unmute your phone? You may begin.
I was actually trying to call in and support testimony, so should I go ahead and wait
Yeah,
for
well,
that?
please go ahead with your
So I can finish
testimony.
my chance. Thank you. This is Catherine Nielsen. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disability. I'll make it short and sweet. I think you've heard from many parents and concerned family members or citizen members today that urge your support on this bill. This will do nothing but benefit the disability community. So we do support this legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nielsen. Anybody else on the line?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 422, please press star 9 now. Vice Chair, there are no other callers choosing to testify at this time.
Okay, we'll go to neutral testimony. Anybody here in Carson City who would like to testify in neutral? In Las Vegas, anybody in neutral? Broadcasting, on the phone, anybody in neutral?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 422, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 422, please press star 9 now. Vice Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. Would you like to make closing remarks, Assemblywoman?
Thank you, Vice Chair Ornlicker. For the record, Michelle Gorlow. It always pains my heart when I hear a family that talks about their child not getting those services. And I really hope we can get some support for AB 422 so that we can make sure that these children are being diagnosed appropriately and getting the therapies they need and having reducing that long-term societal and financial costs associated with these disorders. So thank you very much, and I hope to earn your support on AB 422. So thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And I think we're now ready for public comment. Is there anybody here in Carson City who would like to make public comment? Looks like we might have somebody in Las Vegas who would, for public comment.
Yesenia Gonzalez for the record. I actually have a concern. We have a lot of families that want to tune in when they are watching these sessions, and I know that there are some that also attend in person. I've had a couple attend with me, and there is a language barrier, so I don't know if in the future there's something that can be done for interpretation services. Families are concerned when they are submitting, like, for example, support or neutral or vice versa, and they don't know if they can submit in English and Spanish, which of course we encourage them to by all means do it however they feel comfortable, but they feel concerned at the fact that, number one, they don't understand what's really being said unless it's translated by somebody, the document, or unless there's somebody that is interpreting what is being said in these meetings. I haven't found that when I'm tuning in, so I kind of have to kind of intervene and kind of interpret what's being said so they understand to an extent, or translate some of the documents for them. So I would like in the future maybe to see something like that so families don't really feel left out, because language barrier or not, their opinion, their voice, their advocacy matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gonzalez. This is very helpful to know, and we need to see how we can address that. Thank you. Do we have anybody for public comment on the phone?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now. Vice Chair, there is one caller to provide comment.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Hi, Catherine Nielsen again for the record from the DD Council. I'm just reminding everybody that April 10th is Deaf Day at the legislature, so you will have quite a few individuals on your legislative grounds that are deaf or hard of hearing. So I highly encourage you to participate and interact with these individuals. We will have interpreters available. They are very excited to come and speak with their representatives. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much for letting us know, Ms. Nielsen. Next public comment caller.
Vice Chair, there are no other callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. That will close public comment. Are there any comments from members before we wrap up? Okay, we are adjourned. We will meet again at 12:30 on Friday. 12:30 on Friday. We'll see you then.